Every story has a lesson. This story might change how you see your life. Nobody believed in him until this moment. This lesson hits harder than you expect. He made one decision that changed everything. Most people ignore this truth about happiness. If you feel lost, this story is for you. Stories that inspire happiness.
A poor boy who changed his life forever.
A poor boy who changed his life forever. Where it began. Ethan Miller was born in a town most people passed without noticing. If you blinked while driving through, you would miss it. 3 gas stations, 1 grocery store with flickering lights, an old high school whose football field mattered more than its classrooms. Factories that once fed the town now stood empty, windows broken like missing teeth. Ethan's house sat at the edge of this town, leaning slightly to the left as if tired of standing. His father left when Ethan was 6. No dramatic goodbye, just a note on the kitchen table and a silence that never left the room. His mother worked 2 jobs, morning shift at a diner, night shift cleaning offices downtown. By the time she came home, her shoulders were always slumped forward, as if the weight of life had physically bent her spine. Money was not tight. Money was absent. Bills came with red stamps. The fridge hummed louder than it cooled. Winter nights meant sleeping in layers. Ethan learned early how to pretend everything was fine. At school, he laughed when others laughed. He avoided field trips that cost money. He said he forgot his lunch when he didn't have one. He was invisible by design. Not because he was shy, but because being noticed often meant being exposed. The silent agreement. By age 13, Ethan had made an agreement with life. He didn't speak it out loud, but it lived inside him. I'll survive, I won't dream. Dreams were dangerous. Dreams reminded you of what you didn't have. So Ethan focused on getting through the day. Wake up, school, walk home, microwave dinner, homework if there was electricity, sleep. Repeat. Teachers described him as capable but unmotivated. They didn't know motivation needs fuel, and Ethan had been running on empty for years. Some kids talked about college, others talked about leaving town. Ethan talked about nothing. At night, he sometimes stared at the ceiling and imagined a different version of himself, one who lived somewhere else, someone else. But imagining never lasted long. Reality always interrupted. The day that should have meant nothing. The day that changed everything started like any other. Gray sky, cold air, a sense that nothing special would happen. Ethan stayed late after school to help clean the computer lab. It paid $10 an hour, not much, but enough to help with groceries. As he wiped down dusty keyboards, he noticed something left behind. A notebook. Black cover, no name. He opened it, planning to return it to the front office. Inside were handwritten notes, messy, urgent, alive. Quotes, questions, observations about life, work, failure, discipline. One sentence stopped him. Your future is decided by the habits you keep when no one is watching. Ethan read that line again and again. He didn't know why, but something inside him shifted just slightly, like a door cracking open. He sat down, and he kept reading. The notebook belonged to Mr. Carter, the substitute teacher who had been filling in for months. Everyone thought he was just another burned-out educator killing time, but those pages told a different story. They spoke about responsibility, about ownership, about choosing effort even when life was unfair. Ethan didn't steal the notebook. He copied sentences onto scraps of paper, and for the first time in his life, he felt something unfamiliar: curiosity. A question that wouldn't go away. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. not because of hunger or noise, but because of a question that kept looping in his mind. What if my life doesn't change because I don't believe it can? He hated the thought. It felt like blaming himself for things that weren't his fault, and many things weren't. He didn't choose poverty. He didn't choose abandonment. He didn't choose exhaustion. But he couldn't ignore the idea completely. So he made a small decision, one so small it almost felt pointless. Tomorrow he would wake up 30 minutes earlier. That was it. No grand plan, no vision board, no motivational speeches. Just 30 minutes. The first habit. Waking up early was harder than Ethan expected. His body fought him. His mind begged him to stay in bed. But he remembered the sentence, "Habits decide your future." So he sat up. Those 30 minutes had no clear purpose. At first, he just sat on the edge of the bed. Then he started reading. Not novels, not fantasy, books from the library about money, psychology, discipline, biographies of ordinary people who built extraordinary lives. Most of it went over his head, but some sentences stuck, and that was enough. 30 minutes became a routine, then 45, then an hour. No one noticed. That mattered more than he realized.
Resistance. Change attracts resistance. Not always from others, often from inside. Some mornings Ethan skipped. Some weeks he slipped back into old habits. A part of him whispered, "What's the point?" Another part answered quietly, "Because doing nothing has a cost too." His grades improved slightly. Not dramatically, just enough for teachers to look twice. He didn't become popular. He didn't suddenly feel confident. But he felt steady, and steady was new. The conversation. One afternoon, Mr. Carter called Ethan aside. "You've been staying late a lot," he said. "You thinking about something after high school?" Ethan shrugged. "Not really." Mr. Carter didn't push. He just nodded. "If you ever want to talk, I'm around." That night, Ethan realized something. He had never asked an adult for guidance before. Not because he didn't want help, but because he didn't think he deserved it. The next week, he stayed after class. They talked about community college, about scholarships, about trade programs. Nothing glamorous, but it was a path, and paths were rare where Ethan came from. Failure. Ethan applied for a small scholarship. He didn't get it. The rejection letter felt heavier than it should have. Old thoughts came rushing back. This was stupid. People like me don't get ahead. I should have known better. He skipped mornings, stopped reading, avoided Mr. Carter. For 2 months, he slid backward. Until one night, his mother came home exhausted, sat at the table, and cried silently. No drama, no words, just quiet tears. Something snapped. Not anger, responsibility. Ethan realized motivation wasn't about feeling inspired. It was about acting even when you didn't. He woke up early again the next day. The long road. Ethan didn't escape poverty quickly. He didn't become rich in his 20s. He went to community college while working nights. He failed classes, retook them. He lost jobs, found new ones. He learned budgeting by making mistakes. He learned confidence by being uncomfortable. Years passed. Slowly, painfully, but consistently.
The turning point. At 28, Ethan sat in a small apartment in a city he once thought unreachable. Not fancy, but clean. He worked as a project coordinator at a logistics company. Nothing flashy, but stable. That notebook sentence still sat taped to his wall. Your future is decided by the habits you keep when no one is watching. Ethan smiled. He wasn't special. He wasn't lucky. He was persistent, and persistence had changed everything. Giving back. Ethan started volunteering at a youth center, not to inspire, not to motivate, just to listen. He told kids the truth, that life was unfair, that effort didn't guarantee success, but that doing nothing guaranteed stagnation. Some listened, some didn't. That was okay. What changed his life forever? It wasn't money, it wasn't education, it wasn't opportunity. It was the moment Ethan stopped waiting for life to be fair and started choosing discipline over despair. One small decision, repeated relentlessly. That was enough. Final message to the viewer. If you are waiting for motivation, you will wait forever. If you are waiting for fairness, you will stay stuck. But if you are willing to start small, stay consistent, and take responsibility for what you can control, your life can change. Not overnight, but permanently.
If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Happiness for more stories that inspire happiness.